Hello, class. Welcome to Speaking for Business. So, briefly today, I will pass you through chapter 1 of the textbook so that you can prepare for your quiz 1. Let's get started. So, today I will touch on business communication. I will touch on communication principles. We'll then dive into communication models and then communication channels. So when we talk about communication principles, the first thing you have to note is that communication is unavoidable. Saying so literally means that you cannot determine whether you communicate or not. Even when you are silent, you are still communicating something. The second point is communication is irreversible, meaning whatever word you utter or whatever you say cannot be unsaid and it cannot be unheard as well. The third is communication is a process. By so, we mean communication is a two-way process. So we have communicators, they are descending, they are sending, and they are also decoding messages at the same time. The fourth is communication is not a panacea. This is a Greek word which literally means communication is not all healing. So the fact that you communicate effectively does not mean that you can solve all problems. Now, the fifth is communication is strategic. Mostly when we talk about communication being strategic, people have misconception. They think of it as we communicate to lure people or probably we communicating to advance our own selfish interests. But that's not it. When we talk about communication being strategic, it literally means that we communicate with aim. We say certain things with aim. We use our nonverbal cues with aim. And the first thing we do is instrumental communication. This is when we engage in communication to enhance a specific task. So, for example, your manager will ask you, were you able to finish that report? Did you get the financial budgets ready for the meeting? All these are communication, but they are instrumental because he wants to advance a particular task. The second is relational communication, which is also a form of communication being strategic. So when we engage in relational communication, what we do is that we communicate to build relationships. Either we build a positive relationship or we send that negative signal that we don't want to have any relationship with someone. So for instance, you can see a lady downstairs and then you ask her, can I help you with your bag? Do you want any help? Do you need any assistance? This is communication. It's a strategic one towards relational building. And also, other words, you can see someone and ask the person, so after telling me all this, what do you think I should do about it? This is also a relational communication which sends that negative signal, which means that I don't care. And the third is identity management. We engage in strategic communication so that we would manage our identity. How do you want your classmates to see you? You want them to see you as that cool guy, so you want to be soft-spoken. And if I want you to turn in your assignment at the exact time I want it, I would then want to use assertiveness in communicating to you so that I would portray that identity that I'm serious about what I'm saying. I need those assignments to be turned in. Now let's look at communication models. So looking at my screen here, we have two extreme sides. You would identify that in previous models, we usually say that we have the sender and we have the receiver. But no, communication is two-way and it's a process, it's simultaneous. So we have both ends as communicators. So you are communicating, the other person is also communicating. You encode and decode as a communicator. The other person at the extreme end also encodes and decodes. So when we talk about encoding and decoding, what does it mean? So me as a communicator, if I want to tell you something, I'm going to be very specific with the kind of words I want to use. I'm going to be very specific with the non-verbal cues I want to use. So I would pass that information to you. It literally means that I have encoded the message. And when you receive those messages, you would also decode it. That means that you would attach meaning to it. So probably the meaning I have will not be the meaning you would have at the end of decoding. So you would want to interpret whatever message I send to you. That is decoding. And we have channels in the communication model. So basically, these are the mediums through which I use, or the mediums through which I communicate to you. So it can either be social media, I can use the traditional media, I can use face-to-face as well as my channel or as my medium. And messages are the information that I am passing across. It can be verbal, it can be non-verbal, it can be intentional, it can be unintentional as well. And you can see here that we have noise. So in the communication model, we have noise as well. So when we talk about noise, there are those barriers that prevents or they block effective communication. We'll dive deeper in this in the next slides. So when we talk about noise, we have three main types of noise with respect to communication. We have the environmental noise. That is the noise that comes from the environment. So probably you want to have a one-on-one with your partner and you decided to go out and you realize that where you are is very noisy. He or she is not paying attention to what you're saying, or where you are is very stinky and he or she cannot concentrate on the conversation you are having. So that could be an environmental noise. Then the second is the physical noise. I'm having a headache and you're talking to me, so probably I'm not going to pay that much attention to you. Or I have difficulty hearing you because I'm having hearing problems. So it's going to be difficult to understand what you're saying or to engage in an effective communication with you. And the third is the psychological. So the psychological has to do with my biases, the stereotypes, it has to do with my prejudice. So I have in mind that guys are very worrisome. So immediately you start talking, I know, no, you're not going to say anything good. Or probably you're a salesperson and I have in mind that these people are very manipulative. That's my own personal bias. So it's going to prevent effective communication from taking place. Now let's look at characteristics of channels. When we talk about channels, like I said previously, they are the medium through which communication passes. So when you are looking out for channels, we have to talk about how rich the channel is. When we talk about how rich the channel is, basically we are looking at how fast it is to get feedback. So if I'm having a face-to-face conversation with you, I'm going to have a faster feedback than if I am having like an exchange, a text message exchange with you, because probably I text and you are not around your phone, so you'll not be able to reply immediately. But if it's a face-to-face conversation, there's a high probability that you're going to respond to me very fast. And another aspect of richness talks about the non-verbal cues. So if I'm having that conversation with you, am I able to read your non-verbal cues? If it is face-to-face conversation, I will be able to read your nonverbal cues. You will smile, you frown, you wink, and I will be able to interpret what it means. But if I'm having that conversation over the phone, I'm not going to be able to interpret all your nonverbal cues because some of them I'll not be able to see or to even sense them. And if it is a written communication, it's going to be difficult to decode the nonverbal cues that you'll be using. The second characteristic is speed. So how fast it is to get that message across. So if I'm using the telephone, it's going to be faster than if I have to use letters like writing a letter and going to post it. It's going to take a longer time as compared to having a phone conversation with you. And the third has to do with control. So control has two various aspects. The first talks about how you are able to encode. So if I have to write a letter to you, I'll be able to have enough control over what I'm writing. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to proofread. I'm going to proofread again. I'm going to read meanings into it before I finally send that letter across. But if it is a face-to-face conversation, I might have low control over what message I'm going to send across, because you are right before me and whatever I say cannot be unsaid, and whatever you hear cannot be unheard. So if it is letter that I'm writing, then I'm rest assured that I have some level of control over my emotions. And now, control also talks about the receiver's attention. If I am having a face-to-face conversation with you, I'll be able to control your attention in a way that I can politely ask you to pay attention to what I'm saying. I can also move you away from environmental noise as well. And if it is a phone conversation, I might have little control over your attention. So basically, that's all I want to share with you, and I wish you the best in your quiz. Thank you.